Hello and a very warm welcome to each one of you. And today we are diving into Awaken the Giant Within. And उसके अंदर हम जो पढ़ने वाले हैं, let me share. What we are going to read today is that how metaphors can save our lives. And there is another topic that calls for fit the world to the deed. Let's I while I was reading, not exactly reading, but I was thinking of it. I was thinking ki how we use the worst metaphors, how we do not have intentional metaphors usage when we are in the tough times. Um, this comes out from a personal experience, and I was really interested in, how things can be shifted, how can metaphors actually save our lives, and how what does Tony Robbins has to say, how to work on this, right? Let me very quickly start sharing the screen so that we can read it together. A metaphor could save your life. Two people, Becky and I, have the privilege to count as friends are Martin and Janet Sheen. They have been married for close to 30 years, and one of the things that I respect most about them is their absolute support for each other, for their family, and for anyone in need. As much as the public knows Martin is a committed giver, they have no idea how much he and Jenna do together for others on daily basis. These two people are the epitome of integrity. The metaphor for humanity is that of one giant family. And as a result, they feel the deepest caring and compassion, even for a complete stranger. I remember when Martin shared with me the moving story of how his life changed years ago while he was making Apocalypse. Now, before that time, he had seen life as something to fear. Now he sees it as an intriguing challenge. Why? His new metaphor is that life is a mystery. He loves the mystery of being a human being, the wonder and the sense of possibility that unfolds with his experience of each new day. What changed his metaphor? Intense pain. Apocalypse was shot deep in the jungles of Philippines. The shooting schedule was normally Monday through Friday, and usually on Friday night, Martin and Janet would make the 2.5 hour drive for the weekend retreat in Manila. On one weekend, though, Martin had to stay for an additional Saturday morning shoot. Janet had already committed to going into the town to purchase a glass eye for a crewman who was so poor he was unable to buy his own. So she went ahead. That night, Martin found himself alone, tossing and turning, perspiring profusely, and beginning to experience intense pain. By morning, he began to have a massive heart attack. Portion of his body became numb and paralyzed. He fell on the ground and through nothing but the sheer power of his will, crawled out of the door and yelled for help. Lying there on the ground, he said he actually had the experience of dying. All of a sudden, everything felt calm and smooth. He could see himself moving across the lake and the water in the distance. He thought to himself, oh, this is what dying is. And it was then that he realized that he wasn't afraid of dying and that he had really been afraid of life. In that moment, he realized that life itself was the real challenge. Instantly, he made the decision to live. He mustered every ounce of energy he had left, pushing his arms out to grab some grass. With total focus, he slowly pulled it up to his nose. He could barely feel a thing. The moment he smelled the grass, the pain came back, and he knew he was alive. He kept fighting. When a crewman discovered him, they were sure he would die. Both the looks on their faces and their comments made Martin question his own ability to make it. He began to lose his strength. Realizing there is no time, the top pilot of the Apocalypse crew risked his own life and flew the helicopter sideways through 30 to 40 knot wind in order to get him to the hospital in town. Upon arriving, he was put into the stretcher and wheeled into the emergency room where he continued to receive both subliminal subliminal and overt messages that he was going to die. He was becoming weaker with each moment. Then Janet came in. All she had heard was that he had a heat stroke. But then the doctors informed her that the graveness of his condition. She refused to accept it. She knew that Martin needed strength. She also knew she had to break his pattern of fear as well as her own. She took immediate action and accomplished it all with one statement. When he opened his eyes, she smiled brightly and said, "It's just a movie, babe. It's only a movie." Martin said that in that moment he knew he was going to make it and began. That, what a great metaphor. Instantly, the problem did not seem so grave. It was something he couldn't handle. A movie certainly isn't worth having a heart attack over, was the implied message. And also, subliminally, I believe the metaphor cut even deeper. After all, the pain you are experiencing when you make a movie lasts forever. It's not real. And at some point, the director will say, "Cut." Janet's use of this brilliant pattern interrupt. This single metaphor helped Martin to marshal his rescues, and to this day he believes it saved his life. Metaphors don't just affect us as individuals, they affect our community and our world as well. The metaphors we adopt culturally can shape our perception and our actions and or lack of action. In the last few decades, with the advent of moon missions, we began to adopt the metaphor of spaceship Earth. While the metaphor sounded great, it did not always work well for creating an emotional response to dealing with the emotional ecological challenges. Why? It's hard to get emotional about the spaceship. It's disassociated. Contrast that with the feelings created by the metaphor Mother Earth. How differently would you feel about protecting your mother than you would about keeping a spaceship clean? Pilots and sailors often describe their planes or ships as beautiful women. They say, "She's a beauty." Why don't they say, "He is a beauty"? Because they would probably be a lot rougher with the plane or ship if they had it someone big, fat guy named Joe, rather than some shapely and sleek princess gliding through the shimmering air or sea. We use metaphors constantly during wars. What was the name of the first man of the operation in the Persian Gulf War? Before war was declared, it was called Operation Desert Shield. But as soon as the command of the fight was given, Operation Desert Field became Desert Storm. Think how that one change of metaphor instantly changed the meaning of the experience for everyone. Instead of shielding the rest of the Arab from Saddam Hussein, in General Norman Sorwolf's words, the troops became the storm of freedom, sweeping the occupying Iraqi forces out of Kuwait. This is so beautifully used, right? Just one metaphor used by his wife, Martin's wife, Janet, shifted everything. And we have seen multiple times how the metaphors keep changing to bring more emotional connection with it. How when Pakistan had, attacked India, it became Mission Sindoor. Ladki khadi hai. We had emotional attachment with it, isn't it? Everything that is being done, every so marketers, all these people use metaphors so beautifully, so such that we get attached to the idea, to the emotional. They hit us on the emotional bits. Yeah. An iron curtain has descended across the continent, says Winston Churchill. Think how radically the face of Eastern Europe has changed just in the last couple of years. The Iron Curtain was the metaphor that shaped the post World War II experience for decades. And the Berlin Wall served as a physical symbol for the imposing barrier that divided all of the Europe. When the Berlin Wall came down in November 1989, more than just a stone wall was demolished. The destruction of that one symbol instantly provided a new metaphor that changed the belief of multitudes of people about what was possible in their lifetimes. Why did people have so much fun digging away at an old crumbling wall when there were plenty of gates they could go through? It was because knocking down the wall was a universal metaphor for possibility, freedom, and breaking through barriers. How we also say in the coaching industry, right? Break the barriers. Unshakable confidence. Is the confidence unshakable? Confidence तो confidence ही होता है ना. We use such words, we use such metaphors that it makes it even more stronger to have. We discussed this in length yesterday while Mithilika and Komal were there in the session. So I'll go ahead with this to understand what does the fit the world to the deed is saying about in this chapter. But yes, I hope you got the point, right? That whatever kind of language you use, it can actually. So today in the morning only, I had shared it in my, one of the groups that is transforming lives with Karishma. That how the words that we use can make things good. Words can inspire, and words can destroy. Choose yours well was the poster that I shared in that group. But that is the reality. The words we choose with our loved ones can all of a sudden make them so happy. And the same kind of words, if not chosen correctly, can actually disappoint people around you as well. So we should be using any kind of metaphor or words very mindfully. Let's go ahead. Fit the world to the deed. Being aware of the vast power contained in metaphors includes knowing how to use them in an appropriate context. The challenge is that a lot of people have metaphors that help them in their professions, but create challenges at home. I know an attorney who found herself trying to apply the same adversarial metaphors at home, but served her so well at work. That served her so well at work. Her husband would start a perfectly innocent conversation with her, and the next thing he knew, he felt like he was up on the witness stand being cross examined. That does not work too well in a personal relationship, does it? Or suppose someone is totally dedicated police officer. If they can't let go of their work when they get home, do you think they might always be on the lookout for people violating their standards? People, one of the best examples of an inappropriate metaphor is man who was so disassociated that his wife and children did not feel any concern with him at all. They resented the way he never expressed his true feelings and the fact that he always seemed to be directing them. Do you know what his profession was? He was an air traffic controller. On the job, he had remained detached. Even if there was an emergency, he had to keep his voice absolutely calm so as not to alarm the pilots he was directing. This disassociated attitude worked well at his control tower, but it did not work at home. Be careful not to carry the metaphors that are appropriate in one context, like the environment in which you work, into an incompatible context, like how you relate to your family or friends. Good afternoon, Madhulika. Thank you for joining in. What are some of the metaphors people have? What are some of the metaphors people have for their personal relationships? Some people call the person they are in a relationship with the old man, the old hag. Some call them the direct dictator, the ball and the chain, the warden. One woman actually called her husband the prince of darkness. What are some more empowering alternatives? Areva. Madhulika, if you can hear me, if I am audible, feel free to share. What do you call your husband?
By name.
By his name. Okay, great. So do I. But I still remember that when I did not get married, I used to, there is this song, मैं कहाँ करूँ राम मुझको बुड्ढा मिल गया. I still remember there was an acting when we were in Belgium. We had a fancy dress competition, and I had acted along with one of these uncles who was a Buddha, and I was his bride, and I was singing this song, "मैं क्या करूँ राम मुझे बुड्ढा मिल गया," and this and that, and we used to have lots of fun even after the that competition was over. And I used to keep on singing that. And when I got married to my husband, and after some time, when I had some irritation with him, I went to my mom and I said, "आय हाय सच्ची में मैं क्या करूं मुझको तो बुढ़े से शादी कर ली मैंने." And my mom used to tell me, "Don't say that. It ऐसे नहीं होता, ऐसे नहीं बोलते हैं." हम एक सच्चे में मैं क्या करूं मुझको तो बुढ़ा ही मिल गया. ये तो हमेशा ही चिक 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 करता रहता है. And all of a sudden I saw that my kids were calling my husband Hitler. जब देखो तानाशाही करते रहते हैं, जब देखो he is like a Hitler. And then now when I read this gives me a new perspective that अरे बाप रे अच्छा बोलना शुरू करो. And since last 2-3 years I've been calling him, you are so because I want to feel like a queen, I keep on telling him, you are a king, you are a king and I am a queen. And he's like, ये क्या नया start किया तूने, क्या king king करते रहते हैं. I'm like, because I want to feel like a queen, so I have to be married to a king, and that is why you have to be a king. And this was a very beautiful metaphor that I heard in one of my mentors' room, and I was like, wow, yaar, ye bahut achhi feeling आई है. And I started using that, and actually things shifted. People change with the kind of labels we give them. So yes, in my phone I have him as my husband's name only. नीरज ही है. मैं उसको बुलाती भी नीरज ही हूँ. But even behind his back, I don't call him Hitler or Buddha anymore. That is a shift that I've made. But yes, I'm glad that I have made that shift, because after reading this gives me even more, this thing that you should give people good metaphors so that they also get the energy of those metaphors, right? Many people call their mate their lover, their better half, their partner in life, their teammate, their soulmate. By the way, even changing one slight nuance of a metaphor will change the way you perceive the relationship. You may not feel passionate for your partner, but you certainly would for your lover. Do you think that the metaphors you use in representing your relationships to yourself as well as to others would affect the way you feel about it and how you relate to one another? You bet. One lady who came to a Date with Destiny seminar kept referring to her husband as jerk. This jerk I am with. And I had noticed that whenever he talked about her, he called her the love of his life, or his better half, and or his gift from God. When I pointed this out to her, she was shocked because she is a very loving woman who did not realize how toxic even casually adopted metaphor could be. Together, we selected more appropriate metaphors for her relationship with her husband, just like I shared right now, right? So, yeah, whatever, even for your kids, even for your friends, even for your, colleagues, whatever kind of metaphors you will use, you will see that energy being adopted by them, and that actually comes into the relationship as well. All I want for Christmas. I think this is a story. Let me read it out. One of my friends, who obviously doesn't have kids, used to call them barters. As long as he held that metaphor, you can imagine how kids responded to him. Recently, though, he filled in for a Santa Claus for a department store. Several of us set him up, so he had to do it. And he got to have hundreds of barters come and sit on his lap. Well, that one experience gave him a totally new view of children and changed his metaphor forever. Now he calls them cuddles. Do you think that changed the way he feels? You would better believe it. Calling the kids brats doesn't usually make you want to take good care of them and nurture them. Make sure that you have the appropriate metaphor that supports you in dealing with your children. Remember, they listen and learn from you. Just before this, session had started, I was going through a reel wherein this mother gives child 50 rupees to get a chocolate. The chocolate was of 10 rupees and the child gives back 20 rupees. And now the mother is asking this child कि पैसे कहाँ गए, कहाँ करे पैसे, कैसे करे, क्या किया? And then father also starts poking, क्या हुआ, तूने किसी को दे दिए, and this and that. And then the child, very innocently says, मेरे से गिर गए. Okay. So father checks all his pockets and he finds, more candies in his pocket. And he got it out, and then he said, both the parents started asking कि ये क्या है, ये क्यों है, तुमने तो और चॉकलेट्स क्यों खरीदी, तुझको पैसे नहीं देते, this and that करके उसको डांटना शुरू कर दिया. And then the parents asked, किससे सीखा है तूने? अब उसके सारे फ्रेंड्स के नाम लेने शुरू कर दिए, उसके स्कूल के स्कूल के नाम लिया, इधर उधर का लिया. And he points out the finger at the mother. And the mother is like, मैंने क्या सिखाया है इसमें तुझको? मैंने तुझको चोरी करनी सिखाई है क्या? And this boy is like, you know what, mama also does this. Now what does mama does? मम्मी जब शॉपिंग करने जाती है, मम्मी को कुर्ते वाले ने बोला the kurta costed 350 and she came home and told the husband that it was for 500. And this is where he picked it from. Kids are watching us, kids learn from us, and the kind of language they use, the kind of deeds they do comes from us. And then the husband was like, जाओ उसको समझाओ, and you don't do it either, right? मैंने कोई मना थोड़ी ना किया तुमको पैसे नहीं रखो पैसे खुशी से रखो, but then don't do such things. Whatever metaphor we give into any of our relationships, we will see the energy of that relationship to be the same. Till the time we used to call my husband क्या करूं, मुझको बुढ़ा मिल गया. I used to feel कि हाय राम, किससे एक्चुअली मैं शादी करूं. And the day I started calling him Prince Charming or maybe the King, I started feeling differently for him. Respect भी बढ़ गई and प्यार भी हो गया कि हाँ, my king. If he's my king, he's absolutely keeping me like a queen. I don't have to do much. जिस जो चीज के लिए मेरे पास कंप्लेंट थी कि हाँ इतना बुढ़ा है, इतना ऑर्थोडॉक्स है, ही डज नॉट लेट मी डू एनीथिंग, किंग बोलते ही मेरे सारा पर्सपेक्टिव शिफ्ट हो गया कि अरे बाप रे, इतनी तो लग्जरी में रखा हुआ है कि भैया आई डोंट इवन हैव टू स्टेप माय फुट ऑन द फ्लोर. जब जो चीज चाहिए, ये लो जी, ये लो जी, महारानी जैसा ट्रीटमेंट तो मिल रहा है. व्हाट मोर डू यू वांट? थिंग्स शिफ्ट and the relationships change as well. Having said that, everybody has their own perspectives on this. One of the most empowering global metaphors that has helped me through tough times is a story shared by many speakers in personal development. It is simple story of a stone cutter. How does a stone cutter break open a giant boulder? He starts out with a big hammer and whacks the boulder as hard as he can. The first time he hits it, it's not a scratch, not a chip, nothing. He pulls back the hammer and hits it again and again, 100, 200, 300 times without even a scratch. After all his efforts, the boulder may not show even the slightest crack, but he keeps on hitting it. People sometimes pass by and laugh at him for persisting, when obviously his actions are having no effects. But a stone cutter is very intelligent. He knows that just because you don't see immediate results from your current actions, it does not mean you are not making progress. He keeps hitting at different points of the stones over and over again. At some point, maybe on the 500 or 700 hits, maybe on the 1004th hit, the stone does not just chip, but literally splits in half. Was it this one single hit that broke the stone open? Of course not. It was the constant and continual pressure being applied on something else. Pretty soon, what it becomes, and he said a butterfly. Sorry, I'll repeat that. And pretty soon, what does it become? And he said a butterfly. I asked, can the other little caterpillar on the ground see that this caterpillar became a butterfly? He said, no. I said, and when the caterpillar breaks out of the cocoon, what does he do? Joshua said, he flies. I said, yeah. He gets out and the sunlight dries off his wings and he flies. He's even more beautiful than when he was a caterpillar. Is he more free or less free? Josh said. He is much more free. And I said, do you think he will have more fun? And he said, yes, he has got less legs to get tired. And I said, that's right, he does. He does not need legs anymore. He has got wings. I think your friend has wings now. You see, it is not for us to decide when somebody becomes a butterfly. We think it's wrong, but I think God has a better idea when the right time is. Right now, it's winter and you want to be a summer. You want it to be summer, but God has a different plan. Sometimes we just have to trust the know that God knows how to make butterflies better than we do. And when we are caterpillars, sometimes we don't even realize that butterflies exist because they are up above us. But maybe we should remember that they are there. And Joshua smiled, gave him a big hug, and said, I bet he's a beautiful butterfly. Metaphors can change the meaning you associate to anything. Change what you link pain and pleasure to, and transform your life as effectively as they transform your language. Select them carefully, select them intelligently, select them so they will deepen and enrich your experience of life and that of the people you care about. Become a metaphor detective. Whenever you hear someone using a metaphor that places limits, just step in, break their pattern, and offer a new one. Do this with others and do it with yourself. So try the following exercise. The exercise क्या What is life? Write down the metaphors you have always chosen. Life is like what? Brainstorm everything you can think of because you probably have more than one metaphor for life. When you are in an uncertain resourceful state, you probably call it a battle or a war. And when you are in a good state, maybe you think of it as a gift. Write them all down. Then review your list and ask yourself, if life is such and such, what does it mean to me? If life is sacred, what does it mean? If life is a dream, what does that mean? If all the world is a stage, what does that mean? Each of your metaphors empower and limit. All the world's a stage may be great, but it means you can go out there and make a difference and be heard. But it also may mean you are someone who's always performing instead of sharing your true feelings. So take a good look at the metaphors that you have made available to yourself. What are their advantages and disadvantages? What new metaphors might you like to apply to your life in order to feel more happy, free, and empowered? Oh, this is a very beautiful exercise, and I think you should also, sit back and do this. I'll share the text, the entire text with you in the group as well. Number two is make a list of all the metaphors that you link to relationships or marriage. Are they empowering or disempowering? Remember, conscious awareness alone can transform your metaphors because your brain starts to say, that doesn't work. That's ridiculous. And you can adopt a new metaphor easily. The beauty of this technology is that it is so simple. Number three, pick another area of your life that impacts you most, whether it is your business, your parents, your children, your ability to learn and discover your metaphors for this area. Write these metaphors down and study their impact. Write down. Learning is like playing. If studying is like pulling teeth, you can imagine the pain you are giving yourself. This might be a good metaphor to change and change now once again. Notice the positive and negative consequences of each of your metaphor, exploring them to create new choices of your life. Number four, create new and more empowering metaphors for each of these areas. Decide that from now on, you are going to think of life as 4 or 5 new things to start with at least. Life is not a war. Life is not a test. Life is a game. Life is a dance. Life is sacred. Life is a gift. Life is a picnic. Whatever creates the most positive emotional intensity for you. And finally, decide that you are going to live with these new empowering metaphors for the next 30 days. I invite you to allow the radiance of your new metaphors to sweep you off your feet and make you feel like you are floating on air until you arrive at cloud nine. While you are on top of the world, you can look down at easy street and be tickled pink, knowing that the amount of joy you are feeling in this moment is only the tip of the iceberg. Take control of your metaphors now and create a new world for yourself. A world of possibility, of richness, of wonder, and of joy. Once you have mastered the creative art of crafting metaphors, transforming vocabulary, and asking empowering questions, you are ready to harness. Wow. This was great. All right. So I really love the activity that has been shared, and I think we should sit back and do these activities. But before we go from that space, we need to understand that, from this chapter, we got to understand that all the metaphors carry emotional weight, and they either trap us or they free us. So any word that we use, any kind of vocabulary that we use, any kind of metaphors that we use, in a single moment of its usage, it can either empower us or disempower us. It can hurt us or it can make us happy. The metaphors we choose can change how we feel about our own life or other things as well. For example, relationships की बात हुई, हमारी job के बारे में बात हुई, ऐसे, right? जो empowering अगर हम metaphors use करेंगे, they can change the struggle into strength. It can change, pain becomes purpose. Conflict हमारे ग्रोथ के जैसे हो सकती है. fear जो होता है हमारा, फ्यूल के जैसे काम कर सकता है. So while I was telling you yesterday that I was very emotionally drowned and this and that last week. So I was talking to my mom, and yesterday only I was telling her कि नहीं, I've decided that whatever it is in my heart and soul, I will use it to, rather than sitting back and thinking and getting hurt more and more while making more stories into my head. It's better I start using that energy into my work so that I can, get a restart, force into better actions. Maybe ज्यादा जल्दी कुछ accomplish हो जाए, क्योंकि वो सारी एनर्जी तो एनर्जी है. अभी उसको मैं जिस भी डायरेक्शन में यूज करूंगी, इफ आई पुश करने में भी उतनी एनर्जी मेरी यूज हो सकती है और कम ही पुश हो सकता है. पुल करने में मेरे को उतनी ही एनर्जी लगती है कि ज्यादा सारा पुल भी कर सकते हैं. So let's start using whatever kind of energy we have towards empowering us, towards making much beautiful shifts in our lives. What else? When also I have understood from this chapter that when the words do not match our actions, we create an internal conflict. We need to mirror the language and our behavior. एंड वो पॉसिबल तब है जब हमारा सबकॉन्शियसली हम अपने आप को उस चीज के साथ अग्री करवा दें. अगर मैं कहती जाऊं कि लाइफ इज मैजिकल, अब मैं फील नहीं कर रही हूँ, मुझको पता है कि इट इज नॉट मैजिकल, इट इज समथिंग एल्स, तो it's not going to work. I have to bring out a word for my own self, and everybody would have a different perspective for it. But whatever brings the best out of me is the word that I should use so that I can relate to it and I can move forward and I can actually bring it into my behavior as well. Yeah. That's my learning from this, and I really would, want to sit with the 5 step exercise that Tony Robbins has shared. I'll be sharing that in the group as well with you. And feel free to go through it because that समझ में आ गया is not going to work. As I started this session with, कि how जब negative situations होती हैं आपकी life में, these metaphors, the metaphors we use at that time are obsolete, I would say, disempowering as well. So I think we need to work massively on that part as well. So while we do this exercise that Tony Robbins has shared, I think there will be some shift that we will experience, and that is what is required. अगर हम इस पूरी बुक को ना भी पढ़ें, यहीं तक में भी स्टॉप कर दें, बट दिस शिफ्ट वी ब्रिंग इन आवर लाइफ्स, आई थिंक देयर इज, it is going to bring beautiful shifts in our life. Like Madhulika, you were asking me yesterday, what is that one shift that you would like to bring in the world? Language, words, metaphors, communication. Um, if I believe that if that one shift comes, there's a lot that shifts in people. That's from my end. If you have anything to share, please feel free to unmute yourself and share.
Yeah, hi Karishma. So I was out somewhere. I just landed in and I was
Yeah,
listening to you by putting my phone next to my ear so that I should
I saw
not
that.
I should not miss anything.
Mm.
I would like to go through the recordings
Yeah.
and then I think it will be better for me to share. But yes, I heard that part of your the way you address your husband, the metaphor or maybe the adjective you used to use for your husband. And yes, I can correlate with that. I firmly believe, see, for me, relationship is to make you feel more powerful. So if you can bring out the best version of the other person, how will you bring out? First of all, you have to see if you will say someone he's a liar, 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 that means you are giving him the authority to lie.
Mm.
You are giving him the power to lie. If you say someone, if you even your kids also, or maybe your husband, your relation, so whatever you want them to be, first thing is you need to start addressing them with that, whatever you want them to be. So you
सेल्फ
need to
फुलफिलिंग
believe
प्रोफेसी यही तो होती है ना, सेल्फ फुलफिलिंग प्रोफेसी यही है ना कि यू स्टार्ट कॉलिंग द चाइल्ड अ बेटर वर्जन, कि जो आप चाहते हो आप उसको बुलाना शुरू करो. इवन बीके शिवानी, सिस्टर शिवानी आल्सो सेज दिस, यू स्टार्ट कॉलिंग योर चाइल्ड, भाई कितना सियाना बच्चा है, कितना समझदार बच्चा है, कितना मेच्योर है, या हाउ वट एवर हाउ सो एवर यू वांट योर किड टू बी, you start calling your child that way and your child will start showing those
qualities. Yeah, those
qualities.
qualities will automatically come out in
Yes.
any relationship. In any relationship, if you say someone who she's so helpful, maybe your friend or maybe your neighbor, so she'll be motivated to be helpful.
Yes. It
It's
is, it is like a gentle reminder to that person every time you're conversing. It is a gentle reminder to your own self every time I'm telling anybody ki, oh, don't say sorry, it's okay. I operate from the space of love and compassion or understanding. I'm reminding myself each time ki, Karishma, you need to operate that way only. That is the
yes,
way of life. That is how you. So there is a certain way you want yourself to be known by the world, right? And if you keep reminding yourself by using it again and again and again, I think that shift comes in. It may take, how वो जो ये मूर्ति तराशते हैं, उसको पूरी मूर्ति बनाने में मे भी बहुत टाइम लग जाएगा, but every stroke, every time you say it, it is going to bring some shift in you.
definitely.
Yes.
Come have lunch.
Yeah, I'll just go and have lunch. I did not have my breakfast either. But
Even I didn't had my breakfast, and my son was waiting for me. And yeah, so I'm inviting you to come
yeah,
have
chalo,
tea, chapati,
have
dal.
have a nice day. Enjoy your day. I'll be sharing the recording soon. I'll share the activity. You already have this book with you, right?
Yes, yes,
तो
yes.
इसके एंड पे ये जो एक्टिविटी दी है, you also sit and do. Let's reflect on it and let's help each other use better metaphors for our lives. Yeah. All right. Take care of yourself. Have a beautiful and a happy day ahead. God bless you. See you
Thank you.
tomorrow at
Bye.
1:50.